ever since the manifesto of the Congress was released and a big announcement made that they are going to be doing a wealth redistribution survey if they were to come to power. So let's start this conversation on the telecast with me, Dr. Jaijit Bhattacharya. My first question about how do you think this redistribution of wealth of the citizens impact individuals and in turn our economy?
So, the Congress manifesto is not really clear in terms of how they intend to do the wealth redistribution. So let's go back to history and see how wealth redistribution has happened. So one way is the Robin Hood way. You snatch money away from those who have wealth. That can be done by putting in, let's say, an inheritance tax or saying that inheritance is not allowed. So therefore, when you pass away, your wealth that you have accumulated does not go to your children. They will simply go back to the state, and then state will deem it fit in terms of how they will give it to those that they consider to be poor. And we know how that mechanism works. In fact, it was Rajiv Gandhi himself who said for every 1 rupee sent by the government, only 17 paisa used to reach. It'll be clearly a repetition of that will happen, and that is what has happened globally.
Okay.
It would also be significant increase in taxes to the level that it was in the 60s and 70s, where it reached to 90% taxes, which means that you also break the back of those who have the ability to set up the next set of industries. It is important for capital accumulation to happen. And without that, we will not be able to set up the next generation of industries. And therefore, it's going to be extremely debilitating for the economy.
Do you think we are also risking at losing out on the most enterprising citizens who would rather seek opportunities in other countries, other economies?
Absolutely, yes. It's not just seeking opportunities in other countries. It's also setting up, looking at the opportunities within the country. So who will look at the opportunities within the country? The Indian citizens won't, because they will be under these draconian regulations where they will have, huge amount of taxation. They will have to forcefully take up employees who are not the right set of employees. So they will not be able to set up the organization that can compete. So what will happen is foreign entities will start jumping in, because they will keep a skeleton staff. They will do all the tick marks in India and keep anyone that the government wants them to keep, and then take up the market. And obviously, as you rightly said, what will happen is Indian citizens will start moving out in very, very large numbers. We have seen that happening earlier, and we can see a repeat of that. In fact, it was the builders who had actually said that they don't see much of an opportunity in India. That was about 10, 15 years back. And they said most of their investments are outside of India. And that's exactly what they did in non-ferrous metals. Most of their investments was outside of India.
And do you think the wealth redistribution that happens and these caste-based quotas, are they adversely going to impact meritocracy in our country?
I mean, of course, yes, it goes without saying. It is defined in the way it's being put in, that it is based on your birth that you will get the right to a job or right to a livelihood. If you are born in the wrong caste, then your livelihood is going to be taken away forever, because we have seen such policies kept in place for over 75 years. And we have seen that what the manifesto says is that the quotas will be now increased from 50% to a higher number. That'll be through regulation. So the Supreme Court and the Indian judicial system cannot intervene in that, because that's what the manifesto says, which essentially means that based on where and how you are born, you will be discriminated. You'll have no opportunity left. You will not be able to set up industry. You will not be able to work. You will not get an employment. You will not get a job, irrespective of what your qualifications are. That is patently incorrect, and which basically means that there is no space for meritocracy. And that's what a set of leaders in our country is promoting, which is significantly not acceptable.
Okay. So according to you, can there be welfare and affirmative action approach that can be brought about, that is needed in our country, that both ensures our GDP growth is at its optimum, but at the same time is also serving the poor of the country?
That's where we already are, isn't it? Because there is a direct benefit transfer happening with no loss, when 1 rupee is being sent out, the entire 1 rupee is being reached and received by the recipient without the state saying, I know what needs to be done and I know better than you. It is simply the money being sent directly. So the state already has the data and the information to a fairly large extent. Again, there are errors that will always happen, but we are moving towards that direction where the most vulnerable sections of the society are being protected. So the creamy layers are getting excluded, and that's what we want. Now, if somebody truly wants equality to be in the country, it starts with equality of education, because it is not minerals and resources which brings in money, it is the knowledge which brings in money. And therefore the whole focus of anyone, any leader or politician who wants to have equality in this country would be to bring in significant investments for the equality in education, and that's what's going to bring in the equality.
Okay.
But in the same note, we say there will be right to cheat, and we'll be promoting you based on how you were born. That is very, very counterproductive. That's not
Okay.
going to take us to the next to become a superpower at all.
Okay.